Welcome to Module 7, Helping People in Crisis. It is important to remember that your caller may be experiencing a range of emotional, physical, and financial difficulties that you will not be aware of. Your job on the advice line is to be as helpful as possible and provide the necessary information and advice to the caller in a highly professional manner. You should not underestimate the importance of how you communicate with the caller. This is just as important as advice and information you provide. This workshop will focus on your communication style to achieve the best outcomes for the caller. If you can understand the caller's situation and their story, then it will be easier for you to communicate with respect and offer advice in a non-judgmental way. Active listening will help you understand their situation and what outcome they want from the call. Active listening communicates your desire to help the caller, which in many situations immediately lowers their feeling of distress. It is important to be aware of the situations where we find ourselves having judgmental thoughts about the caller. We must acknowledge these and put them aside in order to give all our attention to the caller. Your task is to help the caller, not to judge them and their situation, or the decisions they may have made in the past. We have no way of knowing how we would behave under similar circumstances. Assertiveness is defined as being forthright and positive in the Oxford Dictionary. The ability to show calm confidence in challenging situations is essential when working with people in crisis and distress. For most people, this is a key area that needs practice. Often people will think they are being assertive when in fact they are aggressive or passive. Your task is to empower the caller by providing the information and advice they require. As well as a thorough understanding of consumer credit, an advice line worker needs a highly developed sense of self-awareness. If we are not fully aware of our own feelings, anger triggers, physical responses to anger, and our thought patterns, then we cannot maintain control or put all our focus into helping the client. Consider the question on the screen. How do you feel when you are angry? What physical sensations do you have? Have you ever noticed how your thoughts can become erratic and focused on the negative when you are angry? It is important to see anger as just another emotion, neither good or bad. What is important is how we respond to it. Anger serves two main purposes. The first is to arouse us in situations of potential threat. We call this a fight or flight response. When this happens, we experience a range of physical reactions and changes to the way we think because of the chemicals released in our bloodstream. Imagine a caller who feels extremely distressed or threatened by financial hardship. Would they be experiencing this fight or flight response? Anger is a secondary emotion used to express a range of primary feelings or states. Our anger may be communicating an underlying feeling of fear or frustration, or anger can be used to manipulate or intimidate others. In your caller, their anger can reflect underlying feelings of physical or emotional pain related to or in addition to their financial issues. Your caller may be experiencing an altered physical, cognitive, or emotional state which reduces their capacity to control their emotions and their behavior. Consider the implications of these triggers for your clients and how they may present to you on the phone. Are you helping them if you become annoyed, upset, or angry yourself? Pause the film now and think about your own anger triggers. How would you respond if you were in the caller's situation? Try to recall a time when you felt angry. What was your trigger in that situation? Recall a past conversation with a client who was distressed or angry. What were their triggers? What feelings did their anger trigger in you? How do we stay in control when we are speaking with an angry or distressed caller? We must be aware of our own anger triggers and stay focused on helping the caller. If we have a strong desire to help the caller, then this will translate into a strong desire to stay in control of our own emotions. Be aware of your feelings and your thoughts, but keep your focus on the needs of the caller. It is worth reviewing the 3 elements of good communication: your ability to communicate your respect, understanding, and willingness to assist can make all the difference to an outcome of a call. Applying your good communication skills is vital at all stages when helping a caller in distress. Empathy is your ability and willingness to walk in the other's shoes or to understand the situation from their perspective. It involves communicating that we understand and respect how they feel. We can develop empathy by being open to how the person is feeling and by being patient and caring. Most people listen in order to formulate their own response. They are not listening to understand the other person. When we do this, we may hear, but we will not understand. Your task on the advice line is to apply active listening skills to ensure you understand the caller's story. If you understand what the caller is saying, then your ability to respond is made much easier. Because you are on the phone with the client, you cannot take advantage of your body language to assist your active listening. Body language usually contains half the message that we either send or receive. We must, therefore, rely on following and reflective listening skills. Following skills involve the listener being friendly and interested. When we are actively following the speaker, we use encouragement to open and direct the conversation when needed. We may prompt the caller when they stray from the point. It can be useful to repeat the last relevant statement made or say, "So you were talking about," and refer back to the information you require. Good following skills also include using minimal encouragers, such as uh-huh, or occasional open-ended questions, such as, "Tell me more about that." Sometimes an attentive silence is the best way to let the caller know we are happy to listen. We are using good reflective listening skills when we restate the feelings and content to show the caller that we understand and accept their story. Paraphrasing helps us to check that we have the facts straight, but be careful to also reflect back how the caller felt about their situation. We do this to ensure the caller that we are empathetic to their situation. We care and understand. Pause the film here and think back to a time when you may have had someone use this technique with you. Did they make you feel as though you were being understood? Or did you feel like they hadn't listened attentively? What made you think that way? It is quite common for people to make mistakes when they try to apply reflective listening strategies. Consider each example and think about a time when you may have made a similar mistake or had someone respond to you in this manner. How did you feel? Discuss these situations with your colleagues if you want to clarify anything. The caller may have already experienced such treatment from others and may be less likely to take your advice as they are not convinced that you are interested or care about them or their problem. The importance of using I statements should not be underestimated. An example of this may be, "I am trying to understand what your situation is. I will need you to repeat slowly so that I don't miss anything." Or, use this sentence structure to help frame your response. "I feel when you because." "I feel uncomfortable when you raise your voice so loudly because I can't understand what you are saying." Accepting responsibility for your feelings is one of the most important communication skills you can develop. I statements may not change the other person's behaviour, but they allow you to be able to express yourself in a calm, confident, and professional manner. Some words and phrases are helpful when speaking with clients who may be experiencing distress, while others are simply dangerous and should be avoided at all costs. The following slides cover a few danger phrases to avoid and some powerful alternatives. When someone is upset, the worst thing we can say to help them calm down is "calm down." What people are looking for when they're in this state is validation. Give it to them. A simple, "I can see how upset you are," or "I understand that you are really angry," helps validate their feelings and get them unstuck. Remember to say, "I understand why you'd be upset," rather than, "I know exactly how you feel," or anything else that implies you too have experienced what that person is experiencing. Tell people you understand why they feel the way they feel, not that you feel that way or have felt the same way as well. The next time you're about to tell a caller that you disagree with them, stop and think. Will this only serve to aggravate the person and speed up their negative self-talk? They won't be listening to anything else you say. Instead, try talking about how you see it and watch how your opinion will be more accepted and considered. I see how you might say that. I see it another way, and then go on to explain the reasons for your view. Instead of antagonizing argumentative phrases that begin with, if you really, try substituting the phrase, I realize you, or I realize that. For example, instead of, if you really cared about losing your house, you'd do what I am telling you to do. Try, I realize you want to do everything you can to improve your financial situation. That is why I am suggesting. Or, I realize you have a lot to think about. That is why an appointment with a financial counselor could help you prioritize your next steps. Reframing is a powerful communication tool where we take a negative thought or statement and replace it with a positive one. It is important, as a professional communicator, to accept an apology when it is given, without being submissive or disrespectful to yourself. Avoid saying, it's okay, or it doesn't matter, when someone apologizes for their behavior. It's not okay to say that, and your feelings do matter. For example, thank you, Dan. What you said was unkind. I appreciate your apology. This strategy draws a line below the unacceptable behavior and maintains the dignity of both parties. When you're dealing with someone who's pushy or won't take no for an answer, don't just wing it. Have a strategy for saying no. There are many ways to say no. Here is a strategy to implement when you have a caller who won't accept no. 1. Say no. Use some version of the word no. 2. Use the word because when they ask why. 3. Implement the broken record response. Repeat yourself word for word. The broken record response is just as it sounds. Once you have answered the caller once, usually with some kind of no, they may keep asking in a variety of ways. It doesn't matter how creative they get, your answer does not change. Your reply is repeated in a very polite and patient manner each time. They will eventually get the message. This technique is preferable to you becoming more and more annoyed or frustrated by trying to find another way to answer the question. It maintains the dignity of both parties, and you will be perceived as a confident professional communicator. Complement the behavior you would like to see. When someone is emotionally out of control, compliment them on the behavior you'd like them to exhibit. To make this easy, try using a lead-in line such as, I'm surprised, or I'm impressed. For example, if you'd like someone to exhibit more self-control, try something such as, I'm surprised you're not even more upset, or I'm impressed that you're keeping it together as well as you are. This encourages people to exhibit the behavior you're acknowledging, in this case, self-control. Say, you're right. Use this when you're dealing with someone who wants to be validated as being right, or as having been wronged. Or use it when you're dealing with someone who's coming from a place of, doesn't anyone get it? You're not acknowledging that anything actually did happen to the other person, but you're saying the words you need to say in order to get them unstuck. To use this strategy, simply start a sentence with, you're right. For example, you're right, this needs to be taken care of immediately. Or, you're right, and I would be happy to prepare some advice for you. Or, you're right, this is a problem I can help you with. No matter how well prepared we are, sometimes an abusive caller can be distressing. In these cases, we need to acknowledge our need to debrief and to talk about what happened. It will be normal after a disturbing call to feel a range of emotions and even experience some symptoms of distress yourself. Be prepared to acknowledge and accept that you may have a range of adverse reactions after a difficult call. Give yourself some time to sort through your own emotions. Talk about the incident and your feelings with someone you can trust. Be careful about laying blame on yourself or the caller. If you have something to learn from the experience, try to reframe your thinking and focus on the positive outcomes. That completes the slideshow. You may be interested to find out about how other volunteers manage similar situations and discuss more strategies. Also consider reading the additional information available in the General Resources Module 8.